Hello, I'm Yazi, and this is my channel. A place where every box has a story. Today, we are starting in a small medieval town, middle of winter, and a foggy afternoon. A young wife is tending to the housely chores, cooking dinner, cleaning, and yelling at her kids to stop throwing rocks at the pigs again. As she looks out the window, she sees her husband tending to the horses. He smiles as a look of content appears over his face, locking eyes for a brief moment, the last moment, before everything was ripped away. Roaring sounds of footsteps take over the silence. The wife rushes to get the kids to hide in their small barn, just as they practice. The husband grabs any sharp tools in arm's reach, standing behind the door, ready to swing at anyone or anything from the other side. The sound gets louder and louder. The earth shakes, causing the wife to fall over into a pile of hay with the kids. As soon as her body gets consumed, a loud bang breaks the barn door. The shrieking of her husband's voice turns into a bubbling, liquid gurgling. Her kids scream in fear as they are quickly quieted by a long, thin wooden pole coming out of their throats. The wife, frozen, sees the life fade from her family's eyes. The earth-shaking sound soon turns into a quiet rumble. The wife, the lone survivor, the unlucky one, cries out, cursing at God for what has happened to her. For what has she done to deserve this? She punches the ground with both hands, screaming. Noticing a shovel, she grabs it by both hands as she whispers the intention of avenging her family. Digging for a whole day, she lays her husband and kids to rest. As she gently puts her hand together, looking up and quietly shaking her head in disapproval. Heading back into town, she noticed she was not the only one affected. The smell of burnt hair fills the air. Bodies laid out in the middle of the streets. Near the center of the main square, the survivors look for each other, wondering, what is the next step? Run and hide? Come together and rebuild? Gather anything that can be used as a weapon and fight back? For the next 30 minutes, plans were discussed until a small child is seen hiding in the corner of a burnt building. The wife, now a widow, runs over to the child, making sure they are not physically hurt. The child stays quiet, quickly accepting the widow's lead. Running around town, looking for basic supplies to survive in the middle of the woods for the next couple of days. They slowly leave the chaos into a musky swamp, avoiding any relatively dangerous paths, for these areas was where the widow grew up. Finding a safe place was easy. The old treehouse that her and her friends made when they were young, around the same age as the child that follows her. The widow shows comfort by sharing old stories and her friends playing games. Stories of her becoming a strong warrior that killed a big, scary dragon. The child smiles with excitement. As they close their eyes for the night, the widow tosses and turns as the child blankly stares at the night sky. They are quickly woken up by scrawny men looking through their stuff, threatening to kill the child if anyone moved. The widow begged to point the weapons in her direction and let the child leave, for they are no threat, as a hit on the head knocks her to the ground. She begs to just let the child live. The scrawny men looked at the widow, raising their weapons to the boy's neck. Slice. One by one, the scrawny men started to fall over, their heads rolling on the ground as a massive, imposing figure, standing around 12 feet tall with a wingspan of 20 feet. Its body is covered in crimson scale and exudes an aura of intense heat. Large bat-like wings extend from its back, allowing it to soar through the air with deadly grace. The face is grotesque, combination of bestial and humanoid features, with sharp horns protruding from its forehead and a pair of piercing, glowing eyes. This beast extends their hand to the widow, gently raising the widow's hand. Feeling the soft embrace, the savior of the day asks, "Join me, and you will never know fear again." The widow accepts without hesitation, as the beast kissed her hand, leaving an intricate circle design on the palms. The beast gently lets go as they fly away. The widow questions what she has done and wonder, how will she not feel fear again? Years and years pass. The widow and the child found a new home far, far away. The child was never able to speak again, but living a happy life. The widow was tending to the house chores. Looking out the window, she sees the child feeding the animals. As a roaring footsteps breaks the silence, her heart drops. Rushing memories of her past life come back to her. The air thickens with oppressive aura, and the atmosphere becomes charged with malevolent energy. Her skin takes on veins of ethereal darkness that snakes across. Pupils elongate into slits. Hands turns into claws, and her nails morph into razor-sharp talons. A pair of leathery wings burst through the shoulder blades, tearing through the flesh with a sickening rip. With a final guttural roar that echoes. The roar sounds of footsteps seems to completely stop. The widow looks at her child and says, "Hide. I will be right back." I hope you enjoyed the story for this video. I had a really fun time making these short stories and something I'd never really done before. So I'm kind of thinking about just pushing a different narrative for every video and giving each box as a story for D&D characters or D&D characters I wish I could make, but there's no way I could play all of them at the same time. So for this story, I guess I was more focused on a warlock style origin story that really hit all the tropes of making short stories great. It starts off really hard for the characters, gets even harder to the point where you think there's no way out of it, and at the end of it, is it worth the sacrifice of not feeling fear? Was it worth it? And that was a real big question I wanted to ask. But yeah, thank you for watching.